The clock on the dashboard read 11:47 p.m. when Jessica Chen noticed her gas tank was running low. She'd been driving for nearly 3 hours on this lonely stretch of highway, coming back from her mom's place in the mountains. The road was dark with nothing but pine trees on both sides and the occasional deer crossing sign to break up the monotony. Jessica worked as a security consultant now, a job that paid well and kept her busy. Most people who met her thought she was just another tech professional. She dressed casually, spoke softly, and had an easy smile that made clients feel comfortable. What they didn't know was that 10 years ago she had a completely different life, a life she rarely talked about anymore. She was thinking about stopping at the next gas station when she saw them. 2 figures on the side of the road waving frantically near a beat-up sedan with its hood propped open. Steam was rising from the engine, visible even in the dim moonlight. One man was tall and lean, the other shorter with broad shoulders. They looked desperate. Jessica's first instinct was to keep driving. It was late, the road was deserted, and something felt off. But then the taller one stepped into the road waving both arms now. She could see his face clearly in her headlights. He looked genuinely distressed. Against her better judgment, she slowed down. The moment her car came to a stop, everything changed. The shorter man moved with surprising speed, yanking open her passenger door before she could hit the lock button. The taller one appeared at her window, and that's when she saw it. A small black pistol pointed directly at her face. "Get out," the tall one said. His voice was rough, edged with panic. "No, wait. Slide over. You're driving." Jessica's heart pounded hard against her ribs, but her face remained completely calm. Years of training kicked in automatically. Like muscle memory she couldn't shake even after all this time. She assessed the situation in seconds, her mind processing details most people would miss in their panic. 2 men, both visibly agitated and sweating despite the cool night air. One armed with what looked like a standard police-issue handgun, probably taken from a guard. The other held something else, something that glinted menacingly in the dome light when he shifted. A sharpened piece of metal. Homemade. Prison-made. They weren't random criminals who happened upon her. They were prisoners. Escaped prisoners. She noticed it in the details. The tall one wore pants that were too short, clearly not his own. The shorter one had a fresh cut above his eyebrow, still bleeding slightly. Their shoes were mismatched. And there was that smell, the unmistakable scent of prison soap and desperation. "Move over now," the tall one repeated, more aggressively this time. He climbed into the back seat while the other one slid into the passenger seat next to her. The makeshift weapon was now pressed against her ribs. She could feel how sharp it was through her jacket. Jessica slid into the passenger seat and then over to the driver's side, her movements slow and deliberate. No sudden moves. Nothing that would escalate the situation. "Drive," the one in the passenger seat said. He was the calmer of the two, but his eyes kept darting to the rear-view mirror. "Take the next left. There's a dirt road about 2 miles up." "Okay," Jessica said quietly. Her voice was steady, almost eerily so. "I'm going to put the car in drive now." "Just do it," the tall one snapped from the back seat. "And don't try anything stupid. I've got nothing to lose here. You understand that?" "Nothing." Jessica nodded and pulled back onto the highway. Her mind was already working through possibilities. The gun was the primary threat, but the man holding it was sitting directly behind her. That was actually an advantage if it came to it. The immediate weapon was the sharpened metal, but the man holding it seemed less committed to violence. "What's your name?" the one next to her asked suddenly. "Jessica. I'm Tommy," he said, then gestured to the back seat. "That's Ray." "Don't tell her our names, you idiot," Ray hissed from behind them. "What does it matter?" Tommy shot back. "They're going to know who we are anyway. It's probably all over the news by now." Jessica kept her eyes on the road, but she was listening carefully. They were arguing. That was good. Divided attention meant mistakes. "There," Tommy pointed. "That road." Jessica turned onto a narrow dirt path that cut through the forest. The car bounced over rocks and roots, branches scraping against the sides. They drove for what felt like forever, but was probably only 10 minutes. Finally, Tommy told her to stop. In the darkness ahead, barely visible through the thick curtain of trees, was an old hunting cabin, the kind that sportsmen use during deer season and then abandoned for the rest of the year, letting nature slowly reclaim it. The windows were dark and empty like hollow eyes, and the porch sagged dangerously on one side, Its wooden boards rotted through from years of rain and snow. Vines had begun crawling up the sides of the structure, and the roof looked like it might collapse in the next strong wind. "Inside," Ray ordered, his voice tight with tension. "And keep your hands where I can see them. Don't make me nervous." They marched her into the cabin, Ray's gun pressed against her back the entire way. The door creaked loudly when Tommy pushed it open, the hinges protesting from lack of use. The interior was worse than the outside. It smelled strongly like mildew and mice with an underlying odor of decay. The wooden floor was covered in dirt, leaves, and what looked like animal droppings. Cobwebs hung from every corner like dusty curtains. Someone found a battery-powered lantern that flickered to life, casting harsh shadows on the walls. There was an old table, a few chairs, and a torn couch against one wall. Tommy grabbed a chair and shoved it into the center of the room. "Sit." Jessica sat down, her hands resting loosely in her lap. She watched as they found some rope in a corner and began tying her to the chair. The knots were sloppy, done by men who were exhausted and running on pure adrenaline. "So what now?" Tommy asked, looking at Ray. "Now we figure out our next move," Ray said, pacing back and forth. "We need money. A car that isn't stolen. Maybe different clothes. We need to get rid of her," Ray added, his voice dropping lower. "She's seen our faces. She knows where we are." Tommy looked uncomfortable. "Man, I didn't sign up for that. I'm not a killer." "You signed up for it the moment you came with me," Ray shot back. "She's a witness. You want to go back to prison? Because that's what happens if we leave her alive." Jessica watched this exchange with interest. They were scared. Desperate men did stupid things, but scared men could sometimes be reasoned with. The key was figuring out which one of them she could work with. "You escaped from the transport today," Jessica said calmly. "From the accident on Route 40. Both men stopped and stared at her. "How do you know that?" Tommy asked. "I listened to the news," Jessica said. "They said 2 prisoners escaped after overpowering guards during a hospital transfer." "That was you." Ray stepped closer, the gun now pointed at her head. "What else do you know?" "I know you're running out of time," Jessica said, her voice still calm. "Every cop in 3 states is looking for you. They've probably found my car on the highway by now. They'll have helicopters up by morning." "Shut up," Ray said, but his hand was shaking slightly. "I'm just stating facts," Jessica replied. "But I might be able to help you." "Help us?" Tommy looked confused. "Lady, we just kidnapped you. Why would you help us?" Jessica met his eyes. "Because right now we all want the same thing. We all want to survive the night." The cabin fell silent except for the sound of Ray's heavy breathing and the wind rattling the loose boards outside. Jessica sat perfectly still, her mind already 3 steps ahead, calculating angles and possibilities. This was far from over. The silence in the cabin stretched out for what felt like minutes but was probably only seconds. Ray kept the gun pointed at Jessica while Tommy stood near the door, shifting his weight from foot to foot like he couldn't decide whether to stay or run. "Help us?" Ray finally said, his voice dripping with suspicion. "Lady, you think we're stupid? The second we untie you, you're going to run straight to the cops." Jessica shook her head slowly. "I'm tied to a chair in the middle of nowhere. You have a gun. Where exactly am I going to run?" Tommy scratched his head, considering this. "She's got a point. Shut up!" Ray snapped at him. He moved closer to Jessica, the gun now just inches from her face. "What kind of help are you talking about?" "Information," Jessica said calmly. "You're running blind, making decisions based on panic." "That's how you get caught," Ray laughed bitterly. "And you're going to give us strategy? What are you, some kind of cop?" "I work in security," Jessica said. "Corporate security. I know how law enforcement thinks. Their procedures, response times, tactics. I can tell you exactly what they're doing to find you." Tommy moved closer, interested despite himself. "What are they doing?" Jessica took a slow breath. "They found your transport vehicle within an hour of the escape. They've already called in every available unit from 3 counties. By now, they've set up roadblocks on every major highway within a 50-mile radius. They're checking every gas station, every convenience store, every place you might stop for supplies." "We know all that," Ray said, but his voice had lost some of its edge. "Do you know about the helicopters?" Jessica asked. "They'll have them up at first light. Thermal imaging cameras that can spot body heat through tree cover, and they've already pinged my cell phone. When I don't answer, they'll track my last known location. They'll find my car on the highway and then they'll start searching in a grid pattern from that point. Tommy's face went pale. How long do we have? Until dawn, Jessica said. Maybe 6 hours. After that, your odds drop to almost zero. Ray's hand tightened on the gun. So what are you saying? That we should just give up? I'm saying you need a better plan than hiding in a cabin and hoping for the best, Jessica said. She kept her voice level, non-judgmental. Right now, you're making emotional decisions. You grabbed me on impulse. You came to this cabin because you remembered it from somewhere. But you haven't thought 3 steps ahead. And you have? Ray challenged. I always think 3 steps ahead, Jessica said quietly. It's what I do. Tommy pulled up an old wooden crate and sat down, his elbows on his knees. Okay, I'm listening. What should we be doing? Ray shot him an angry look. Don't listen to her. She's trying to mess with our heads. Our heads are already messed up, Tommy said tiredly. Look at us, Ray. We're exhausted. We're hungry. We've got no plan and no money. Maybe we should hear what she has to say. Jessica could see the dynamic between them clearly now. Ray was the aggressive one, the leader, but he was also scared and running on pure adrenaline. Tommy was the follower, less violent, more practical. If she could get Tommy on her side, Ray might follow. The first thing you need to understand, Jessica said, is that every decision either increases or decreases your chance of getting caught. Taking me hostage? That increased it. Coming to this cabin? That increased it too. Why? Tommy asked. Nobody knows about this place. You do. Which means there's a record somewhere. A work detail, a conversation with another prisoner. When they investigate your background, they'll find it. Ray's jaw clenched. She's just trying to scare us. I'm trying to help you think clearly, Jessica said. Scared people make mistakes. Tommy looked at Ray. She's not wrong about the work detail. We were clearing brush last summer and saw this place from the road. Which means, Jessica continued, that other prisoners on that detail saw it too, and when the cops start interviewing people who might know where you'd run, someone's going to remember. This cabin is on borrowed time. The lantern flickered, making their shadows dance on the walls. Ray started pacing again, his free hand running through his hair repeatedly. Jessica could see him spiraling, his mind racing with all the things that could go wrong. So what do we do? Tommy asked quietly. Just tell us what to do. First, you need to make a choice, Jessica said. Are you running to get away or are you running to get to something? What's the difference? Ray asked. Running away is reactive, Jessica explained. You're just trying to put distance between you and your problems. But you're still in prison clothes, you have no resources, and every cop in the state is looking for you. Running away doesn't solve any of that. And running to something? Tommy asked. That means you have a destination, a goal. Maybe money stashed somewhere. Maybe a contact who can help. Running to something gives you strategy. Ray stopped pacing. We've got something. There's a place about 200 miles from here. Tommy's cousin has a boat. If we can get to the coast, we can disappear. 200 miles, Jessica repeated. That's a full day of driving if you don't stop. But you will have to stop. For gas, for food, for bathroom breaks. And every stop is an opportunity to get caught. So it's impossible, Tommy said, his shoulders slumping. I didn't say that, Jessica replied. I said it's difficult. There's a difference. Ray leveled the gun at her again. Okay, genius. How do we make it possible? Jessica met his eyes steadily. You need 3 things. Different clothes, a different vehicle, and you need to change your appearance enough that casual observers won't recognize you from the news. And where are we supposed to get all that? Ray demanded. There's a truck stop about 15 miles east of here, Jessica said. 24 hours, always busy. Lot of long-haul drivers coming and going. The kind of place where nobody pays much attention to anyone else. Tommy leaned forward. How do you know about it? I drove past it on my way to my mother's house, Jessica said. I almost stopped for coffee. So we robbed the truck stop, Ray said. Take some trucker's rig. That's the worst idea possible, Jessica said flatly. Truckers report stolen vehicles immediately because their whole livelihood is in that truck. Within minutes, every cop would know exactly what you're driving. Then what? Tommy asked, frustrated now. Jessica was quiet for a moment. There's a smarter way. But you'd have to trust me. And let me go, Ray barked out a laugh. Yeah, that's gonna happen. I walk into that truck stop, buy you clothes and food, pay cash. I bring everything back. You let me go, take my car and cash, and get a head start while I walk to the nearest town. How stupid do you think we are? Ray asked. You'll call the cops the second you're out of sight. Maybe, Jessica admitted. Or maybe I value my life more than I value turning in 2 strangers. Maybe I just want to go home and forget this night ever happened. Tommy looked at Ray. It could work. It's a trap, Ray insisted. Everything's a trap at this point, Tommy said. We're trapped here. Maybe she just wants to survive, same as us. The two men stared at each other. Jessica watched, barely breathing. Finally, Ray turned back to her. Show me your phone. Jessica nodded toward her jacket pocket. Left side. Tommy retrieved it and handed it to Ray. Ray threw it on the floor and smashed it with his boot. The screen shattered, pieces scattering across the boards. Now you can't call anyone even if you wanted to, Ray said. But you're not going anywhere. Not yet. He moved closer to Jessica, bending down until his face was level with hers. I don't trust you. I don't trust anyone. But I'm going to ask you something, and I want the truth. Why are you really helping us? Jessica held his gaze. Because I'm scared, she said simply. And scared people do whatever they have to do to stay alive. It was the first completely honest thing she'd said all night. And somehow Ray seemed to believe it. Ray straightened up and walked to the window, peering through a gap in the boarded-up frame. Dawn was still hours away, but Jessica could see the calculation in his eyes. He was weighing options, measuring risks, trying to figure out if she was playing him or telling the truth. All right, he said finally. Let's say I believe you. What's in it for you? My life, Jessica said simply. I go home. I see my family again. Tommy had been quiet, but now he spoke up. I still don't get it. You said you work in security. You assess risks and stuff. So what's your assessment of us? You think we're going to hurt you? Jessica looked at him for a long moment. Honestly, I think Ray wants to. I think he's scared enough and desperate enough that he sees me as a problem that needs to be solved. But I don't think you want to, Tommy. I think you're scared too, but in a different way. You're scared of what you might become if you follow Ray down that road. The cabin went silent. Tommy looked away, his jaw tight. Ray's grip on the gun tightened. You don't know anything about us, Ray said, his voice low and dangerous. I know enough, Jessica said. I know Ray's probably in for something violent. The way he holds that gun, the way he makes decisions, he's been in situations like this before. But Tommy? You're different. My guess is robbery, maybe drug-related, nonviolent offenses. You got caught up with the wrong people, made bad choices, but you're not a killer. Shut up, Ray said, but there was something uncertain in his voice now. Am I wrong? Jessica asked, looking at Tommy. Tommy shook his head slowly. Armed robbery. I was 22 and stupid. Needed money for my kid, but I never hurt anyone. The gun wasn't even loaded. And you, Ray? Jessica asked, already knowing she was pushing her luck. Ray moved fast, crossing the room. He grabbed Jessica's chair and tilted it back, putting his face inches from hers. You want to know what I did? I put a man in the hospital. He disrespected me, so I made sure he'd never do it again. And you know what? I'd do it again. So maybe you should stop psychoanalyzing me and remember who's holding the gun. He let the chair drop back down. Jessica's heart was racing, but she kept her expression neutral. She'd gotten the confirmation she needed. Ray was dangerous but predictable. Men like him operated on ego and fear. Fine, she said. Then let's talk practically. The truck stop I mentioned. It's your best option for getting what you need without raising suspicion. We already talked about this, Ray said, pacing again. You want us to let you go shopping for us like we're idiots. Not let me go, Jessica said. One of you comes with me. Both men stopped and looked at her. Think about it, Jessica continued. One of you stays here with the gun, keeping pressure on the situation. The other one comes with me, wears some of my spare clothes from the car. It's dark, the truck stop will be busy. Nobody's looking for a woman and her boyfriend stopping for supplies. Ray narrowed his eyes. Her boyfriend? Couples are invisible, Jessica explained. A single man buying clothes in the middle of the night? That's suspicious. But a woman buying clothes while her tired boyfriend waits in the car? Nobody even notices. Tommy actually smiled a little. That's pretty smart. It's a trap, Ray insisted. The second they're out of sight, she's screaming for help. Then you keep my car keys, Jessica said. And you keep something else. Something that matters to me. Something that guarantees I'll come back. Like what? Tommy asked. Jessica thought for a moment. In my glove compartment, there's a silver locket. It was my grandmother's. It's the only thing I have left of her. You keep that. If I don't come back, you throw it in a river and it's gone forever. The specificity of the detail seemed to convince them. People didn't make up stories about grandmother's lockets on the spot. Ray studied her face, looking for any sign of deception. How do we know that's even true? Check the car, Jessica said. It's there. It has a photo inside of a woman who looks like me but older. That's her. Tommy volunteered to check. He grabbed the car keys from Ray and headed outside. They could hear his footsteps on the porch, then the sound of the car door opening. A few minutes later he returned, holding a small silver locket. He opened it and showed Ray. Inside was indeed a faded photograph of an elderly woman with kind eyes and Jessica's same smile. "It's real," Tommy said quietly. Ray took the locket and examined it, then closed his fist around it. "Okay, say we do this. Who goes with you?" "Tommy," Jessica said immediately. "No way," Ray said. "If anyone goes, it's me." "Think about it," Jessica said. "You're 6'3" and built like someone who's been lifting weights in a prison yard. You're intimidating. People notice you. Tommy's average height, average build. He blends in." "She's got a point," Tommy said. Ray didn't like it, but Jessica could see him considering it. Finally, he nodded. "Fine. But if you're not back in 2 hours, I'm gone. And this locket goes with me." 2 hours isn't enough," Jessica said. "It's a 30-minute drive there and back. That gives us 1 hour to shop, and that's cutting it close." 2.5 hours, Ray countered. "That's my final offer." "Deal," Jessica said. Ray started untying her from the chair, but he kept the gun pointed at her the entire time. When she stood up, her legs were stiff from sitting so long. She stretched carefully, aware that both men were watching her every move. "Tommy, grab those bags from the corner," Ray ordered. "Put on one of her jackets from the car. And remember, I've got this gun and her locket. You try anything, she loses both." Tommy nodded and went to get ready. Jessica watched Ray pocket the locket and realized something important. He'd just given away his biggest weakness. That locket mattered to him now. It was leverage, proof that he could control the situation, which meant he'd be emotionally invested in seeing her return. As Tommy came back wearing one of Jessica's oversized hoodies, she caught his eye. He looked nervous but determined. She gave him a small nod and something passed between them, an understanding. "Before we go," Jessica said to Ray, "I need to know you'll keep your word. We bring back what you need, you let me go. No tricks, no last-minute changes." Ray smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Sure, we'll let you go. You have my word." The way he said it made Jessica's blood run cold. He was lying. She could hear it in his tone, see it in his eyes. Ray had no intention of letting her leave this cabin alive. The moment she served her purpose, she'd become a liability to eliminate. But she'd expected that. Men like Ray always lied. What Ray didn't know was that Jessica had been lying too. There was no grandmother's locket. That locket belonged to someone else entirely. Someone she'd taken it from during a mission years ago. She'd kept it as a reminder of how easy it was to make people believe a story, if you told it with enough detail. And the truck stop wasn't just a place to buy clothes. It was where she planned to make her move. Jessica and Tommy stepped out into the cold night air. The stars were bright overhead, and somewhere in the distance a coyote howled. Tommy looked at her, his expression a mix of hope and fear. "This is going to work, right?" he asked quietly. Jessica opened the car door and slid into the driver's seat. "Get in. We've got 2.5 hours, and a lot can happen in that time." As they drove away from the cabin, Jessica glanced in the rearview mirror. She could see Ray standing in the doorway, lit from behind by the flickering lantern. He was watching them disappear into the darkness. She smiled to herself. Ray thought he was in control. He thought he held all the cards. He had no idea who he was really dealing with. The game was just beginning. The truck stop appeared on the horizon like a small island of light in an ocean of darkness. Jessica could see the glow of fluorescent signs advertising diesel fuel, hot coffee, and 24-hour service. A handful of big rigs sat in the parking lot, their engines rumbling quietly as drivers caught a few hours of sleep before hitting the road again. Tommy had been quiet for most of the drive, staring out the window with his hands clasped tightly in his lap. Now as they pulled into the parking lot, he finally spoke. "I need to ask you something," he said, "and I need you to be honest with me." Jessica parked away from the main lights in a spot where they could see the entrance but weren't too visible themselves. She turned off the engine and looked at him. "Go ahead." "Are you planning to turn us in?" Tommy asked. His voice was steady, but she could hear the fear underneath. "Because if you are, I need to know now. I have a daughter. She's 8 years old. I haven't seen her in 3 years. If I go back now, I won't see her until she's almost grown." "Lily," Tommy said quietly. "She's 8. She loves drawing. Every month her mom sends me pictures. Flowers mostly. She thinks I'm away working on a ship. Why did you escape? Jessica asked. You only had 2 more years left? Tommy looked down. My ex-wife is getting remarried. The guy wants to adopt Lily. Change her last name. I got the papers 2 weeks ago. He swallowed hard. I just wanted to see her one more time before I become nobody to her. Jessica felt something twist in her chest. Everything Tommy was saying rang true. He wasn't a hardened criminal. He was a desperate father who'd made a terrible choice. Ray doesn't know that, does he? She asked. Tommy shook his head. He thinks we're going to his cousin's boat. I was planning to split off once we got near the coast. I just needed someone to help me get out of that prison transport. And now you're stuck with him, Jessica said. Yeah, Tommy admitted. And I'm starting to realize he's never going to let either of us walk away from this. Jessica nodded slowly. She'd known this from the moment she saw Ray's eyes back in the cabin. Men like him saw the world as a zero-sum game. Either you won or you lost, and witnesses were always losses waiting to happen. So what do we do? Tommy asked. You're too calm. You're not like regular people who'd be crying or panicking. Jessica turned to face him. You're right. I do have a plan. But I need to know if you're with me or against me. What's the plan? We go inside, we get what Ray asked for. Clothes, food, some supplies. But while we're doing that, I make a phone call. Not to the police. To someone else. Tommy's eyes widened. Who? Someone who can help us both, Jessica said. Someone who can get you to see your daughter one last time. And someone who can make sure Ray doesn't hurt anyone else. I don't understand, Tommy said. Who are you? Jessica reached up and slowly rolled up her right sleeve. Even in the dim parking lot light, the tattoo was visible. A distinctive emblem that Tommy recognized immediately from his own time in the military. No way, he breathed. You're Delta Force? Was, Jessica corrected. I left that life 5 years ago. But I still have connections. People who owe me favors. People who can make things happen quietly. Tommy stared at her. So this whole time you've been playing us? I've been surviving, Jessica said. Same as you. But unlike Ray, I don't believe in unnecessary casualties. You're not a bad person, Tommy. You're just a father who made a bad choice. That's not the same thing. And Ray? Jessica's expression hardened. Ray is dangerous. He's going to hurt someone if we don't stop him. Maybe both of us. Maybe some innocent person he runs into next. Men like him don't stop until someone stops them. Tommy was quiet, processing this. Finally, he asked, What do you need me to do? Go inside with me like we planned. Act normal. When I step away to make my call, you don't ask questions. Just keep loading the cart. And then we go back to that cabin and we end this, Jessica said. But I need you to trust me. Tommy looked at her, then nodded. You could have hurt me any time during this drive. You could have called for help. But you didn't, so yeah, I trust you. They got out and walked toward the entrance. Jessica had her hair pulled back under a baseball cap. Tommy wore her hoodie with the hood up. They looked like a tired couple on a road trip. Inside, the store was bright and mostly empty. A bored cashier scrolled through his phone. A truck driver examined snacks near the back. Jessica grabbed a cart and started moving through the aisles. She picked up jeans, t-shirts, a cheap jacket. Tommy helped, adding items methodically. They worked in silence, playing their roles perfectly. When they reached the food section, Jessica said, I'm using the restroom. Keep shopping, Tommy nodded. Jessica walked toward the back but slipped outside through a side door. The night air was cold. She moved quickly to a payphone on the building's side. She dropped in coins and dialed a number she'd memorized years ago. It rang 3 times before someone picked up. This is Hawks, a gruff voice answered. Hawks, it's Chen, Jessica said quietly. I need an extraction. There was a pause. Chen, we thought you were done. I was, but I've got a situation. 2 escaped convicts. I'm at the Route 40 truck stop with one. The other is at a hunting cabin 15 miles west. Coordinates 40 degrees north, 83 west. Are you in danger? Hawks asked, his tone suddenly sharp and professional. Manageable danger, Jessica said. I need a team standing by. One subject is salvageable. The other isn't. I'll return to the cabin within the hour. Eyes in the sky and boots on the ground, but they stay back until my signal. What's the signal? Jessica thought for a moment. When you see me step outside the cabin and raise both arms above my head, that's when you move in. Not before. If you come in early, people die. Understood, Hawk said. Team will be in position within 40 minutes. You sure about this? You've been out 5 years. Some things you never forget, Jessica said. Hawks? The salvageable one has a daughter, Lily, 8 years old. I want her at the regional office. He sees her before processing. That's not standard protocol, Hawk said. It is now, Jessica replied. Call it my fee for handling this quietly. Hawks was silent for a moment, then sighed. Fine, we'll make it happen. Be careful out there, Chen. Always am, Jessica said and hung up. She stood there for a moment, letting her heart rate settle. Then she went back inside through the side door, walked to the restroom, flushed a toilet for authenticity, and returned to Tommy. He'd filled the cart with sandwiches, water, and energy bars. He looked at her nervously. Everything okay? Everything's fine, Jessica said. Let's pay and get back. We're running out of time. As they loaded their purchases into the car, Tommy asked quietly, Did you make the call? I did, Jessica said, and? Jessica looked at him. You're going to see Lily. I promise you that. But you have to do exactly what I tell you when we get back to that cabin. Can you do that? Tommy's eyes filled with tears, but he blinked them back and nodded. Whatever you need. They drove back into the darkness, the truck stop fading behind them. Jessica's mind was already 3 steps ahead, calculating angles and timing. The hardest part was still to come. Ray was waiting for them, and men like Ray didn't go down easy. But Jessica had handled worse. Much worse. The cabin appeared through the trees, the lantern still glowing in the window. Ray's silhouette moved behind the glass, pacing like a caged animal. Jessica took a deep breath and put her hand on Tommy's arm. Remember, trust me. No matter what happens in there, trust me. Tommy nodded, his jaw set with determination. They grabbed the bags and walked toward the cabin door. The final act was about to begin. Ray was at the door before they even knocked, yanking it open with the gun already raised. His eyes were wild, darting between Jessica and Tommy, then to the bags they carried. You're late, he snapped. You had 2.5 hours. It's been almost 3. Traffic, Jessica said calmly, and the cashier was watching everyone. Ray grabbed a bag and dumped it on the floor. Clothes and food scattered. He rifled through everything, his movements jerky. Did anyone follow you? He demanded. No one followed us, Tommy said, setting down the other bags. It went exactly like she said it would. Ray's eyes narrowed. You two seem comfortable now. What happened out there? We shopped, Jessica said. We didn't talk much. Ray stepped closer to Tommy. You look different. You look calm. Why? Tommy swallowed hard. I'm just tired, man. It's been a long night. No, Ray said slowly. Something changed. What did she say to you? Jessica could see the situation deteriorating. Ray's paranoia was taking over. She needed to shift his attention. You need to talk about next steps, Jessica said. You have supplies now, but you're still trapped. Every hour you wait, police get closer. Ray spun to face her. What are you saying? I'm saying you need to move. Take the supplies, take my car, and go. You promised you'd let me go. I helped you, Ray laughed bitterly. You think I'm stupid? The second you're free, you call the cops. Then what's your plan? Jessica asked. Keep me here forever? People are expecting me. When I don't show up tomorrow, they'll come looking. She's right, Tommy said quietly. We need to make a decision. Ray whirled on him. Since when do you question me? I got you out, and I'm grateful, Tommy said. But this is getting out of control. Maybe we should take her deal. The deal? Ray's voice rose. There is no deal. We're dead men walking. The only way we survive is if we eliminate every loose end. Jessica saw Tommy's face go pale as he realized what Ray meant. She also saw the moment Tommy made his decision. His hand moved slowly toward the makeshift weapon Ray had set down on the table. Don't, Ray said, noticing the movement immediately. He swung the gun toward Tommy. Don't even think about it. Ray, please, Tommy said, his hands going up. Just listen for a second. I'm done listening, Ray said. I should have known you'd go soft. You were always soft. That's why you're in prison in the first place. You couldn't even rob a store properly. Jessica saw her opening. While Ray's attention was on Tommy, she moved. She grabbed the lantern and hurled it at Ray's feet. The glass shattered. Oil spread and the flame caught instantly. Fire bloomed between them, forcing Ray backward. Get out, Jessica yelled at Tommy, but Ray fired. The shot was wild, hitting the wall. Tommy dove behind the couch. Jessica rolled toward the table, grabbing the makeshift weapon. Ray fired again, closer. Jessica felt the bullet whiz past, but she was already moving. Using techniques drilled through years of training, she came up behind the table. "You should have stayed down," Ray shouted over the flames. The fire was spreading through the old wood. Smoke filled the room. Jessica calculated angles, timing, distances. The fire was between her and Ray, but also spreading toward the exit. "They had maybe 2 minutes. Tommy," she called out. "The door, now." Tommy scrambled toward the exit, keeping low. Ray tried to track him with the gun, but the smoke was making it hard to see. He fired again, the shot going wide. Jessica used the distraction. She grabbed the table and flipped it toward Ray through the flames. Ray tried to dodge, but the small cabin gave him no room. The table caught his legs and he went down. The gun skittered away into the smoke. Jessica was on him instantly. Ray was bigger, stronger, but Jessica had been trained by the best. She knew where to strike, how to use leverage. Ray threw a wild punch. Jessica deflected and struck his throat. Not hard enough to kill, but enough to stun him. While he gasped, she got behind him and put him in a chokehold. "Stop fighting," she said. "It's over." Ray struggled, clawing at her arms. But her grip was precise. 10 seconds later, Ray went limp. Jessica laid him down, checking his pulse. Alive. She dragged him toward the door. The cabin was fully engulfed, flames climbing the walls. Tommy was outside, coughing. When he saw Jessica dragging Ray, he helped. Together, they pulled Ray to safety. Jessica straightened and raised both arms above her head. Within seconds, the night erupted. A helicopter appeared, spotlight illuminating everything. Black SUVs raced up the logging road. Armed operators poured out, moving with precision. Tommy's eyes went wide. "What's happening?" "You're going to see your daughter," Jessica said quietly. Before Tommy could respond, operators surrounded them. They secured Ray first, then gestured for Tommy to put his hands back. He complied, looking at Jessica with gratitude and confusion. One of the operators, a woman with sharp eyes and a tactical vest, approached Jessica. "Chen, good to see you in one piece." "Good to be in one piece, Martinez," Jessica replied. "Hawks is in the lead vehicle. He wants to debrief you." Jessica nodded, then turned to Tommy as they led him away. "Remember what I promised you. Keep your word to them and they'll keep their word to you." Tommy nodded, tears streaming down his face. "Thank you," he mouthed silently. 3 hours later, Jessica sat in an office at the tactical center. She'd given her statement, declined medical attention, and drunk terrible coffee. Hawks entered with a tablet. "Situation's contained. Ray's in custody with new charges. Tommy's cooperating. And you," he sat down. "You okay?" "I'm fine," Jessica said. "You know what I mean." "This was supposed to be behind you," Jessica was quiet. "Sometimes the life doesn't let you leave." Hawks nodded. "You handled it perfectly. No civilian casualties, minimal damage. What about Tommy and his daughter?" Hawks smiled slightly. "She's in the waiting room. We flew her in. He'll get 30 minutes before processing." Jessica stood. "Then I'm done here." "You sure?" "We could use someone with your skills." "I'm sure," Jessica said. "I like my quiet life." Hawks walked her to the exit. Passing the waiting room, Jessica glimpsed through the window. A little girl with pigtails sat coloring. Flowers, she was drawing flowers. In another room, Tommy was being led in, still cuffed. The moment he saw Lily, his face transformed. Pure joy mixed with heartbreak. Jessica turned away. Some moments were too private. Outside, the sun was rising. Jessica felt the warmth after the long, cold night. Her car was impounded, but Martinez had arranged a ride. Her phone buzzed. A text from her assistant. "Where are you?" "You missed our morning meeting." Jessica smiled and typed back. "Car trouble." "Long story. I'll be in this afternoon." As she waited for her ride, she thought about the night. About Ray, who'd let his anger and pride destroy any chance he had at redemption. About Tommy, who'd made terrible choices but was still trying to be a father. About the thin line between those who could be saved and those who couldn't. And she thought about herself. About how, despite 5 years away from the military life, the training never really left you. The skills stayed sharp, buried just beneath the surface, waiting. Maybe Hawks was right. Maybe you never really left that life. Maybe you just took breaks between missions. But for now, Jessica was ready to go back to her quiet existence. Back to her corporate security consulting, her regular clients, her normal problems, at least until the next dark highway. at least until the next time someone needed help. Because in the end, that's who she was. Not just a former Delta Force operator, not just a woman who could handle herself in a crisis. She was someone who helped people when they needed it most, even when it put her own life at risk. And that was something worth being.